Hello, good afternoon, Psychologies community. How is everyone doing today? Well, it's good afternoon here in the UK, so wherever you are in the world, welcome. It's great to be here, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys today about the power of negative thinking and actually what we can do to help ourselves step away from that and empower ourselves to really embrace moving past limiting beliefs and really empowering steps that we can take to do that from today. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So I can see that people are starting to join the call, which is great. Hello, feel free to say hi and let me know who you are. Always a pleasure to be here. So for those of you who perhaps have not watched my videos before on the Psychologies page, my name is Tania Diggory. So I am the founder and director of Karma, which is a platform, a business in the UK that supports entrepreneurs and purposeful organisations with nurturing good mental well-being in business and in life. So we do a lot of work and training around resilience, emotional intelligence, and strengthening your mindset, because it really is like strengthening your muscles. You know, if you're doing a physical workout, you strengthen your physical muscles, and actually if you're working on your mindset and your mind, then... Oh, sorry, I think it paused a bit there. I'll just check that the internet is working properly. So hello Amanda from Jakarta. Awesome. Hello. It's always really great to see where everyone is based. The world is such a small place now. And also author of this. Apologies, the internet's just being a little bit strange this morning, this afternoon even. So if you guys could just drop a message just to let me know that you can hear me and it is working, that would be great. Okay, so feel free to somebody to just type a quick message to let me know that I am coming across to you guys and the video is working. So yes, so I was just giving a little introduction as to who I am and what I do. I'm a mental health trainer, mental health first aider, and a wellbeing practitioner. I'm also a practitioner in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So talking on the topic of the brain, how it works, how we look after ourselves, how we nurture good mental well-being and physical and emotional well-being is really something I'm so passionate about. Thank you, Amanda. Really pleased. Thank you for confirming that you can hear me and all is good now. Hopefully that's just a temporary blip of the internet, and now we're back on track. So thank you guys for joining today. Without further ado, we'll get started. So we are talking about negative thoughts, negative thinking patterns, which I'm sure we can all agree that we all have from time to time, and it affects everybody, right? So first and foremost, it is a human experience. Okay, so what we're going to start with is just going into a little detail into understanding the science behind negative thoughts, negative thinking patterns, and how it affects us. Now, am I right in thinking that we know what it feels like to, whether you're having a conversation with somebody or you've had an experience where loads of positive things have happened, or you're hearing a lot of positive things, but then one negative thing is said or happens, and then it's almost like it just erases all the other positive things that have just happened, and your brain, your mode just switches into whoop, focusing on that one negative thing, and it keeps repeating in your brain. Do you guys relate to that experience and that feeling? So it's quite common, and why is it that we focus so much, we're so drawn to the negative aspect of what we're taking in? And it really comes down to how we process information, how our brains process information, and our memory recall. And there is a lot of really fascinating research into memory recall and actually how we can reconstruct experiences that happen to us to almost try and make sense of it as well. So therefore, what I mean by that is it's not always necessarily based on the reality of what happened at that time, but it's based on our own interpretation of that reality, if that makes sense. How we interpreted it, how we processed it, and therefore our reaction to that situation. So according to scientific research, just one single negative setback can have double the effect of positive experiences that we go through due to our memory recall, which is quite fascinating really, isn't it? So therefore, negative experiences that we have and emotions that we feel can feel stronger than when we're having positive experiences, right? Because they feel fluid, they are what they are, and it feels joyful and great. But it comes down to how the brain responds, how the brain reacts when we are going through something negative, or how we process something negative. So yes, just received a comment. Asadallah, it's very difficult to get rid of negative thinking. Absolutely. So what happens in the brain? Basically, there's this part of the brain, there's lots of different parts of the brain that operate in different ways and help us function in different ways. So a basic understanding of it is to look at this one part where it's sometimes referred to as the chimp part of the brain or the reptile part of the brain. It's the part where we have evolved over years and years and years. We've always had this part of the brain that responds to a threat or stress or danger. Okay, so yeah, I just had another comment. Often happens to me, especially if the negative remarks coming from closest and dearest in our life. Completely relate to that and understand, Amanda. That's so true. So what happens in our brain when that happens? Okay, so we have this response, this stress response, where when we feel stressed, when we feel like something negative has happened, whether it's someone close to us and dear to us, or whether it's to do in our work situation, whatever the environment and situation is, we have this trigger, something that sparks off in our brain. Our brain releases a chemical called cortisol, and also adrenaline can rush through our bodies at that time as well. And this sparks a fight, flight or freeze mode in our brain. Right, it's this gut instinct we've had within us for years and years and years. Basically, when we're faced with danger or something that we perceive as a threat, that it triggers that mode. So we either want to run away from it, we want to, hide away and retreat, or we face it head on, or we freeze on the spot and we don't feel like we know what to do in that moment. Okay, so understanding that this is what's happening in our brain is really important, because it can help you to understand, okay, this is how my brain is responding, this is how my body's responding. It doesn't define me as a human being, it doesn't mean I'm a stressed person, it's what is happening in this moment and how I'm processing this current experience is leading me to feel stressed. And this is my body's natural response in that time, and I have a choice to do something about it. Okay, so the language we tell ourselves is incredibly powerful. It's something I talk about a lot in my videos. So the language we tell ourselves is really powerful, not only internally but also to other people, because we all process things differently. We all have our own filtering system for how we see the world. And if you're constantly telling yourself negative, repetitive thinking patterns, it can be really damaging, not only to our confidence but our self-esteem and how we process other things that are going on around us in our lives, okay? Because it can have a direct impact and effect on how we continue to view situations, view how we have the coping skills or don't have the coping skills to manage those situations. And we all have the coping skills, it's just about tapping into those. So I want to share with you guys some tips, some things that you can do practically, on a practical basis, straight away from today when you feel like those negative thoughts come up, you have a negative experience, and what you can do in that moment to help yourself. Okay, because the thinking patterns as well, it's plays such a massive part in how we operate on a day-to-day basis, how we see ourselves, how we see others, and how we process information. Okay, so negative repetitive thinking patterns will keep bringing down our self-esteem and our confidence. What we want to do is train ourselves, okay, train our mind, because neurologically speaking, the neural pathways in our brain, when you're trying to make a change, do something different, think differently, there's going to be a natural resistance there, because the neural pathways start to detach to form new pathways, okay, which is really fascinating to think about, isn't it? So actually the brain is working for you, it's shifting, and you may have heard those phrases where creatures of habit, or we have this resistance to change, because there's a science behind it. So the more we understand these things, the more it can help us to know how to be as effective as we can, and that it's just understanding what we can do to help ourselves, okay? So trying to think of flipping language on its head is the first step, okay? It's really important. But before we even get into that more, what I'd like you guys to think about is when a negative thought arises, just simply stop and take notice, okay? Because we do all, each individual person, okay, every single one of us has the power to make a change, has the power within us to stop and take stock of our own well-being, of our response to situations, and what we can do about it, okay? Every single one of us has that ability. It's just that trust and that knowing and having a go and making the choice to do something different. Because if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always got, right? Okay, so by taking notice, what I mean by that is even just starting to shift the language to an element of curiosity. So instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, what just happened? I can't believe this. I'm not good at this, or I don't know what to do, or I'm feeling really like I'm failing," whatever it is, okay, or they don't like me, things that are just really negatively impacting your self-esteem. Just stop and think, that's interesting. I'm taking notice of the language that's going through my mind at the moment. I know that it doesn't define me, because feelings change, and please always remember that as well. It can feel very all-consuming in the moment when you're feeling really affected by a situation in a negative way. But ultimately, you always have a choice to view things differently and recognise that feelings change. Not just on a day-to-day basis, on a moment-to-moment basis. So perhaps thinking, how might I feel about this in an hour's time, in a day's time, in a week's time? It helps you to get a different perspective on what's going on. Does that make sense? So looking at it from an element of curiosity, like, that's interesting. Okay. So what am I feeling right now? Get a sense of your body and the sensory experience that's going on in your body. Because we all hold tension in different parts of our body when we're feeling stressed, okay? Remember, this is one entity, okay? This is one unit, however you want to look at it in whatever metaphor. But essentially, when we're talking about mental health, physical health, emotional health, all of these things exist within your body. So they're not separate or detached from one another, because one thing will spark another, right? Your thought patterns might spark a feeling of fear or worry, okay? An emotion of, frustration, whatever it is. It might spark a physical sensation in your body of maybe a tightness in your chest, or you feel like you have to take breaths and get your breathing rhythm back to normal. You might feel like you've got a headache coming on. So your physical and mental, emotional health is all interconnected, okay? So it's really important to recognize this. So adopt an element of curiosity. Get curious about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, how that impacts your body, and start to recognize that you have the ability to train your brain to think differently, to react differently in any situation. Now, on that point of reacting, it's very easy to be reactive in the sense of, in the moment, quickly responding to something without having really thought about it. Okay, it's your gut instinct reaction, yeah, in that moment. It's your stress response. You want to keep yourself safe, right? So you might just say something that comes to mind quickly without really thinking about what the consequences might be. I'm sure we've all been there, yeah? So just remember that it's very easy to be reactive, but it takes effort and time to really take a step back and think, how do I want to respond in this situation? What would be the best thing for me, for whoever's involved, to look at this in an objective way? Now, everything I'm talking about today, there's no way that I'm saying it's easy, okay? So, but it's important to consider, and it's achievable. That's the most important thing, okay? So even no matter how difficult something feels or a situation feels to you, a change in behavior, a change in habitual thinking, a change in your approach to the situation and how you deal with it is achievable, okay? We all have the power to impact change in our lives. Okay, so think about when negative thoughts arise, how can you think curiously about it? Okay. Now, we all have different forms of reality. What do I mean by this? So I feel that this is something really important to consider and to be mindful of when you're in a situation where perhaps it's a communication you're having with somebody that might feel really stressful, or you're struggling to see eye to eye and connect, or something that's just happened that's really stressed you out. Okay, so every single person on this planet has their own view or their own map of the world. Okay, so how they see the world, how they interact with the world around them. We all have our own unique belief systems about ourselves and others and about life. We all have our own values, our own morals that are representative of how we've processed experiences throughout the course of our lives to today. Okay, so if you're in a situation where you perhaps feel like, oh, I don't really understand why they're being so stressed, or I don't get why they said that to me, or how could they be so hurtful or rude, or whatever it is that's making you feel like it's having a negative impact on you and sparking those negative thoughts, taking a step back to remember that we each respond differently based on our own understanding of the situation, based on our own value judgments, our own beliefs, etc., etc. Okay, so what might stress one person out might not bother someone else, right? And vice versa, because we all, process things differently. Okay, so by understanding this, that can be really helpful to, again, reaffirm to yourselves that, what you're going through, what you're feeling in that moment doesn't define who you are. And actually, it's a human experience that we're going through. So your human experience may be different to someone else's human experience. So there are ways that you can communicate and try out different communication techniques to influence conversations. But ultimately, we can't change people. And we don't really have a right to change people, right? Just like no one has a right to change who you are. We're all unique and we're all individual. Okay, so it's just about understanding your own response to situations. So like I said before, getting an understanding of really understanding how your body responds, how your sensory experience, what your sensory experience is like, and what you notice, what you're taking notice of in those situations. And then understanding, okay, this is my reality, this is how I'm seeing things. They may be seeing things differently, or, this has happened and this is how I'm processing it. But, let me take a look at what that means for me, right? Okay, so got a couple of comments. I think we can only divert our mind, not get rid. Oh, absolutely. It's, it's about working with our mind. We've all got our own mindsets and our own states of well-being. So it's just about working with that to empower yourself and to create the best versions of your days. And we can all do this, with really actively taking into consideration how we can reaffirm positivity in our lives, because the negative reactions can be so strong based on us wanting to protect ourselves, right? Also, just look over the person who tries to make a stressful situation. Yeah, also, that's a really good point. So you don't always have to take on board, everyone's opinions, or, if someone said something to you that you find quite hurtful, but actually, how much of an impact do they have in your lives? How often do you see this person? Do you agree with what they've said, or do you actually believe it's not true? Do you have other evidence in your life to support the fact that it's the contrary to what that person has said? If you're finding it difficult to change an opinion about something, if you know that you've been true to yourself and been kind to others, then do you need to take that on board? It's very easy to take things personally as well at times, and actually, in the spirit of curiosity, looking on situations and thinking, is this something that I need to take on board? And build your own self-esteem again. Think, have I been true to myself? Have I been kind to others? And, how does that impact me? Do I need to take that on board? So, thank you guys for your comments. It's really great to get your insights as well and what you're thinking. So, another point I'd mention is that when you are going through a stressful situation or a negative situation, do something uplifting for yourself, all right? So this comes back to the idea that we all have choice. We are never in a place where we don't have a choice of something we can do differently, whether it's physically changing something about that situation, or physically changing something about our mindset and how we're approaching the situation, because that all comes down to us. No one can change that for you. It's down to your own levels of resilience and personal development in building the tools and resources within you to cope and manage with whatever situation comes your way. Okay, so doing something uplifting, I think it's really, really important to note, whether that's an element of self-care in terms of going out for a walk, getting fresh air, speaking to somebody who makes you feel positive and reminds you of the positivity in your life, whether it's reading a great book, watching a great video, eating something you really enjoy, or drinking, having a nice drink, something you enjoy, like tea and biscuits, big favourite in the UK, of course. So whatever it is for you, just do something for self-care to remind you of the positivity in your life. Because remember, it's easy for the negative stuff to bog you down. So we have to work doubly hard to remind ourselves of the positivity that we have around us, because there's always positive things to look for. And just reminding ourselves that we have a choice to look at things in a different way and to focus on positive aspects as well. So, the influence in our environment also counts for a lot. So when I talk about, doing something uplifting, have a think about who in your life you spend time with or can spend more time with that make you feel uplifted, that make you feel happy, joyful, that remind you of all the good things you've got in your life. So there's so much to be said about environment. And actually, when you're surrounded by people who are bringing you down, that's going to naturally have a negative impact on your energy levels as well. And vice versa, when you're with people who make you feel great, who uplift your spirits, then that's going to have a really positive impact. So just consider your environment. Think about doing something uplifting for yourself, and have that be part of how you're managing and processing any negative thoughts or experiences as well. Okay, so I hope that this is all really helpful for you guys, and thank you again for your engagement so far. So a couple of other points I'd like to explore with you is the idea of acceptance. So sometimes when we resist unhelpful thinking patterns or negative thoughts, negative experiences that happen in the moment, when we're resisting those, it can actually feel like it does more harm to us because it ends up hurting us, right? It hurts you at the end of the day because it's how you're processing the information. If you're trying to think, I don't want to deal with it, or, just overthinking things, it can end up hurting you more. So cultivating a thought process of acceptance as and when things arise. And that's part of your process of managing it, of coping, of dealing with it. So by that I mean accepting what happens, with an attitude of kindness to yourself as well as to others. So accepting what is, which can be very difficult, but some things you can't change, right? So actually, if we start to cultivate that aspect of, okay, this is something that I can't change right now, but I can change my approach to it. I can change how I think about it. I can change my thinking patterns, how I feel about the situation. I can do something good for myself and help me to process this in a way that's going to be helpful. Even if something is really, really challenging, there's always something you can learn from it, even if it's a difficult learning experience. I'm sure we can all recall certain experiences that we've been through that have been very difficult to process. But things take time. There's that beautiful adage, that phrase, this too shall pass. Things like that really help that really help us to consider the broader spectrum of what's really going on in our lives in general. Nothing's permanent and fixed. Things are temporary, okay, and things move on. So even if something feels like it's, the biggest deal in this moment, in this time, reminding yourself that this will pass, like whatever you're feeling and your intensity of your feelings in that moment, and that you will find ways to process your experiences and your feelings in a way that's helpful to you, by practicing lots of different methods, some of which we've explored today, but there are tons you can explore to help yourself practice and train your brain to think of things in a proactive and productive and positive way. Okay, so practice kindness. There's a lot of research that particularly Dr. David Hamilton has done in this area, and I know he does a lot to contribute to Psychologies magazine as well. And he talks about the value of kindness, and just a few benefits I'm listing here include how it creates emotional warmth, how it can actually improve your, reduce your blood pressure, and how it can improve how your cardiovascular system operates. There are so many physiological, mental and emotional benefits to practicing the act of kindness. How it releases a chemical in the brain called oxytocin, the happiness chemical, makes you feel good. So really practicing acts of kindness to yourself and others can be really, really valuable and important along your journey as well. There's also a documentary I'd like to recommend, which I just started watching. It's called Heal, and it actually features Dr. David Hamilton as well as some, incredible thought leaders in this field, such as Deepak Chopra, Anita Moorjani, so loads of really great speakers. And the documentary is all about the mind-body connection and how the body can essentially heal itself. It's an absolutely incredible documentary, and it's available on Netflix. I know that Netflix in different countries sometimes shows different films and series, so just check, but otherwise do look it up and see if there's another way that you can find it. So it's called Heal. So acceptance and practicing kindness, really, really valuable and important parts of when we're thinking about how we manage and navigate negative thinking patterns and experiences. Finally, recalling perhaps experiences not as good or bad, but they are experiences that happened and they taught you something valuable. Okay, sometimes we can get too bogged down with labels, and something was really, great, or something was awful, terrible, bad, negative. And again, they can be negative reinforcements to you. So perhaps, again, with an attitude of curiosity and kindness, looking on experiences as they are what they are, okay, and what happened, and whatever interaction you had with somebody that happened, rather than stuck in the label, just thinking about what are you experiencing, what are you exploring, what do you feel, but where do you feel it, and what do you want to happen, what would you like your approach to be, and start trying to shift your thinking patterns to be really positive and work for you rather than against you. Be your own biggest champion, be kind to yourself. Reminding yourself things like, I'm doing the best that I can in this moment. I'm always learning. I never stop learning. I'm proud of myself for managing and dealing with whatever it is, and use examples in your life. Recall examples where you've dealt with a situation really well and you've come out the other side feeling stronger. So remind yourself of those situations, and that you do have the power to take care of yourself and uplift yourself in any situation. So it might take time, but it's worth it. Like I said at the beginning, it's about it being achievable. It's not about a quick fix. It's not about that, but it's about taking time to process things in a different way. So I'd like to finally end this session today on the idea that we're all in this together. Okay, just coming back to a really basic, fundamental truth that we're all human. Okay, it's that level of humanity that we all go through these experiences. We all experience negative thoughts, negative thinking patterns, and have experiences that we process as negative. However, like I say, slightly detaching from the labels, we all have different ways of processing things, and it's about understanding that we are essentially all in this together. We're not unique in that sense. We all go through these different human experiences, and it just simply comes down to what level of commitment you're giving to yourself on a daily basis to practice kindness, acceptance, viewing things with an attitude of curiosity, and choosing to process things in a way that's going to uplift you and empower you and help you to embrace positive experiences as much as you can. All right, so release self-judgment, be kind to yourself, and just remind yourself all the good things that you've done for yourself, and all the things that you process as great and joyful and powerful and empowering, and adopt that attitude to when things happen that you process as negative thoughts or negative experiences. So I hope that's been really helpful for you guys. Any questions, feel free to ask. So like I said at the start today, my name's Tanya, and I run a company called Karma, and my passion is really about supporting people to nurture good mental well-being and empower ourselves to be the best we can be, because we all have incredible resources within us to achieve that. So I hope that that's been really helpful for you today, and you have enjoyed the call. And like I said, any questions you have, just let me know, and I really look forward to joining you guys in the group again next month, where we'll be exploring another topic. But thank you again for everyone who's joined the call today. Anyone who is joining later, sees the video later, I hope you enjoyed too. And I just want to say a big heartfelt thank you. A big thank you to Psychologies as usual as well. We've also just had a couple of questions or comments. Thank you, Karen. I'm really pleased that was helpful. And Mari, would it help if I had more physical strength? So that's a really great question. So there is a lot of evidence to show the benefits of physical activity and how that can improve your mental and emotional health as well. Like I said earlier, it's all interlinked and it's all one unit, right? So it's actually been clinically proven that regular exercise can reduce any feelings of mild to moderate depression as much as antidepressants do. Okay, so it releases so many positive hormones in the body. It releases a lot of chemicals in the brain that you need to feel good, like oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. So absolutely, there's a huge link in terms of the mind-body connection in that sense. And so whatever exercise feels great to you, or building your physical strength in ways that you enjoy, whether it's going to classes or going for walks or joining the gym, swimming, whatever it is to you, just think of it as another aspect, another element of self-care that improves not only your physical strength, but actually improves your overall mental and emotional well-being as well. So absolutely, they do all interlink. So I'd always recommend exploring a multifaceted way of nurturing self-care for you. So thinking about what makes you really happy, activities you really enjoy doing, you know, things that nurture the mind, and, you know, nurture your physical health as well. You know, being around people who make you feel great, you know, or, you know, yeah, bring about those feelings of happiness. Because, you know, we all need a support network as well. So there's so much value in that. So yeah, really try and think of an explorative way of looking at how you look after yourself. So thank you, Mari. Thank you, Amanda. I'm so pleased that this has been helpful for you guys. And do reach out if you have any questions for me personally. My website is thisiskarma.com. Be happy to help in any way that I can. And have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Have an empowered and kind day. Thank you so much. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.